Okay, second video I want to make for you is solving for y. So we'll be given a equation that's in standard form. We'll see what that looks like in a second, and we want to convert it into slope intercept form and look like that. Okay, technically this is really just a different type of problem that's exactly like solving for one variable. In this case we're solving for y, but it's really the same skill. But I wanted to show you a video of this because these end up being a little bit different, usually a couple extra steps or one extra step than the previous video where we're solving for one variable. In these problems, it's always important to note that we want our end product or our end solution needs to be in the y-intercept form. And just to remind you, that is y equals mx plus b. So it looks like we're solving for y, right? And so this is solving for one variable, but it's a little different, so I did want to make a separate video, as I said. So again, we have 10x minus 4y. 10x minus 4y equals 15. Okay? And we want to get y by itself. Okay, so we've got y here with a 4 times it, multiplied by it. Negative 4, and we have a 10x. So first step would be get this 10x out of this side. We want to remove it from this side, and we're going to do the inverse operation, so it's a positive 10x, so we're going to subtract 10x. And if I do it from one side, I have to do it to the other side. Okay? These cancel out. I'm left with negative 4y. We can't forget about that negative, or the negative subtraction symbol. We can consider that a negative. That has to come along for the ride. And then we've got 15 minus 10x. Now we can't combine 15 and 10x because they're unlike terms. They're different terms. So we're just going to keep it the way it is, like this. We still have one problem left. So we have one step. Here's our second step. I think this will be our final step. We have a negative 4 times the y, right? Times the y. So we want to use inverse operations or opposite operation and do it to both sides to get y by itself. So since we're multiplying by negative 4, we want to divide by negative 4. That's the opposite operation. Okay? And we have to do that to both sides. And we're technically doing it to the 15 as well as the 10, negative 10. Right? That's a negative. I can't forget that. So now negative 4 divided by negative 4 is just 1. So we are left with y, which is great. That's what we want. And then we have 15 divided by negative 4, which is 15 over 4, and the whole thing is negative. Okay? Because one of the numbers is negative in division, that means that our answer is going to be negative. And now we have a negative 10x divided by 4, which is 10/4, right? 10/4. It's actually a positive 10/4 because a negative divided by a negative divided by a negative is always a positive, right?
Mr. Allen, can
technically,
you come to the elementary hallway where they go out for recess, please?
We can simplify this by dividing the top and bottom by 2. We got 5 halves, and it's positive, so we're just going to put plus 5 halves, and we can't forget that we have an x there. So we get y equals negative 15 over 4 plus 5 halves x. Let's try that. Negative 15/4 plus 5 halves times x. That is correct. Now the ones that we're going to have on the quiz aren't going to be that hard where we have all those crazy fractions. Most of them are going to end up being whole numbers. This one will not be a whole number. Let's see if I can find one that'll be a whole number. We won't be doing any problems like that. I guess we'll just solve this one. It's not going to be perfect, with whole numbers, but it's still worth doing. So we've got 10x plus 15y equals negative 3. All right, so we want to get y by itself. Remember, we want y equals mx plus b. We're solving for y on all of these. And that means we need to move this x out of here. Okay? So we're going to subtract 10x, if I can get it written here, from both sides. This is going to cancel out, right? And the 15y is left on this side. Negative 3 minus 10x. Okay, now I need to get this taken care of. 15 times y. I need to do the opposite of multiplying by 15, which is dividing by 15. I need to do that to both sides. Okay. 15 divided by 15 is just 1. 1 times y is just y. So we are headed up the right road here because we're left with y. We're solving for y. Negative 3 over 15 divided by 15 can be simplified. 3 goes into both the numerator and the denominator. 3 goes into 3 one time. 3 goes into 15 5 times. And it's negative. So I've got negative 1/5. And then 10 over 15 can also be simplified. We have a negative 10 over 15. 5 can go into both of those. 2 times into 10 and 3 times into 15. It's a negative. Minus 2/3, and I can't forget about my x. So most of the time we will be dividing, this last step we'll be dividing by whatever number is being multiplied by the y on the quiz. Sometimes you'll end up with a fraction like these, but for the for the majority of the time they'll be whole numbers, something like 15 divided by 3 or 10 divided by 2 will give us a whole number. In this case, this isn't too bad. We still have two fractions. So we have y equals negative 1/5 minus 2/3 x. Let's try it. Good to go. All right, I think I'll leave it there. Please let me know if you want any other videos, or if you need help, come see me or email me. We can work through some more of these. But as you can see, most of these are two-step. In other words, we have 2 steps. I won't enter this one in, but just 2 steps is what we're looking at. We want to get y by itself, which means we have to usually subtract, sometimes add if it's a negative, but in this case we have a positive x, so we're going to subtract it from both sides. That takes care of this, and we're left with a number multiplied by the y, and we're left with a whole number usually, or an integer subtracted by an x, or a number times x. And then we divide by the number that's right next to the coefficient, the number that's right next to the variable. If it's negative, we divide by a negative number. If it's positive, we divide by a positive number. And we have to remember to do that to both sides. And then if we have fractions, we need to simplify, right? 14 over 14 is just 1. 10 over 14 can be simplified. They're both negative, so a negative divided by a negative is positive. So whatever I simplify this fraction to right here is going to be positive, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So 5/7, because if I divide both the top and bottom by 2, 5/7. And then technically that's a 1x, right here. So it's really negative 1x divided by negative 14. A negative divided by a negative is also a positive. So we can think of it as 1/14 x, right? Because we can think of this as a 1 right there. And I'll leave the video there. I'm sorry, I went one more. Like I said, the difficulty level won't be quite this on the quiz. There won't be a lot of fractions like this. There might be one or two, but mostly you'll have whole numbers. So they should work out relatively cleanly. All right. Let me know, as I said, if you have any more questions.